All right. Well, welcome, Waylon, to the Seven Figure Flipping Podcast. So glad you're here, man. How are you doing today?
I'm awesome. I'm super pumped to be here. It was so much fun with everybody down in Cancun. So looking forward to catching up.
And I'm so excited for Waylon to be here because Waylon, who do you work for?
I work for Indeed.com, the job site.
And so, man, I'm grateful that you're here. Podcast land is grateful that you're here because, gang, what you're about to hear is going to blow your mind. So where do you want to see this go today?
So I think there's a couple different areas that I think we should probably go to. I think one is definitely getting the right candidates is a challenge. To me, there's nothing more important than who's on your team. If you want to win, having a great coach is amazing, right? If you're in professional sports, having a better coach in the other team is good. But the team that has the best players typically has the best chance to win. Mm-hmm. And so I think that really focusing on the caliber of individuals that are on your team is something that you should be spending a significant amount of time on, and something that we tend not to, right? So if you look at how much time as a sales manager do you spend helping your team sell deals versus how much time you spend checking references for people you're going to hire, often it's going to be maybe you don't even check references. Right. And then you can end up with some bad hires that there's no amount of coaching and selling with them that's going to change the fact that this is a person who's not really interested in being a high achiever.
All right. So that's great. Let's focus on that first one. How do we get what we want? And I'm assuming that's the attraction piece, right? How do we get the right candidates in the funnel?
So first off, I think that Indeed is a great tool, and it's where more hires are going to come from that platform than anywhere else. But another source not to sleep on is just your social media presence for your business. I think that within this, real estate, house flipping, wholesaling community, there's a lot of people that want to do what we're doing and that want to be involved. And so if you can hire someone who's already a fan of what you do and is super excited, you can get great hires that way, and they don't cost you anything. It's just, are you on social media promoting what you and your people are doing, like the deals you're wholesaling, the houses you're flipping? Because if you've got a decent presence that way, you can get a lot of your hires from that and a lot of your best hires. When we're talking about Indeed or any other hiring platform, I think that there's been a real shift where employees have a lot more power now than they had 10 years ago. With Indeed, it's really transformed things in that it's given job seekers the ability to really know what their options are. Almost every job is going to be on there. That's the goal of Indeed. So you're actually competing with way more people than you were 10 years ago, right? So nice. What are you actually doing to stand out? Why should someone want to work for you than anyone else? I think a very small percentage, maybe 10% of the ads I see on Indeed do even a half decent job of saying what they offer. Why would you want to come and be a part of what I'm building over here? Right. So what's in it for the job seeker is kind of the language that I use when I'm talking internally at Indeed, or when I'm talking to one of our clients. The best people are going to want to work for the best companies. They're going to want to work for people who have a lot to offer. And yet in our job descriptions, often that stuff's not even there. People are not necessarily reading your whole job description, right? They're reading the beginning. It's very easy to apply now, one button typically. So there's a couple things with that. One, be mindful of the length of your job post, right? If they're only going to read 50% of your job posting, why not make it half as long? And maybe they read the whole thing, and it's you've selected which of those ideas they're going to be seeing versus just the randomness of kind of scrolling through it. But definitely leading off the top with what's in it for them, because I don't care what the responsibilities and requirements are if I'm not interested in what the company has to offer. And it also just kind of says, how do you think as an employer? Well, if all of the stuff that you want is at the top and what you have to offer is at the bottom, it probably gives you an idea of how that employer sees things, which is I'm the employer and what I want is most important, and what you want is secondary.
Yeah, that's great. So lead with the good stuff. So is there kind of a general rule about the length of your post, particularly for smaller companies like ours?
Yeah. So I'm not sure exactly what the metrics are these days, but certainly under 2,000 characters, you're going to get generally better performance. The more entry level the role, typically the shorter the job description is going to be. right? If you have a more sophisticated role, you're looking for a COO, you're probably going to need to include more there. But if you're in there 1,000 to 1,500 characters, you're definitely in the sweet spot for sure.
Okay.
And really, whatever you can do, like consider that most people are going to see this on mobile. Like big paragraphs don't look good on, any platform, but certainly once you get onto a phone or a tablet or something like that. So breaking things up, using bold headings, bullet points and things like that, just to make it easier on the eyes, because people will click in and they'll just kind of see this mess of an ad and they'll just click out, right? Doesn't look professional. And it's not easy to read. And it's just like, because when they're searching in a lot of these markets, like if it's a sales role, there might be, in Toronto, we probably got 3,000 open sales roles. Like, how are you, every little thing you do at that point becomes really important to differentiate. And if your ad is laid out cleanly and the stuff that I'm most concerned with is right at the beginning, and you tell a good story about your company and where you're going, something that people actually would want to be a part of, I think that's ultimately the most important thing. You can't compete with like Google and Indeed and Facebook in terms of overall brand power, but you can still tell a story where people get engaged and want to be part of that, where they can be more significant than they could be, for example, at a big company. A job posting is an advertisement. And I think that's something that gets lost on people in recruitment, is it's a marketing effort. You're marketing, just like we market to buy houses, you're marketing to get candidates. And it's not like what do they have to offer us? Because unless you have something great to offer them, the really good people they're not going to be in the running. They're just not going to be applying to your jobs. There's 100 other postings for that admin assistant to apply to on, with one click. Why should they choose you? And I think that really spending time to figure out what that is important. With doing stuff like the Traction series, where you're coming up with core values and stuff, like what can you do to sort of make it feel like you're doing something special that people should want to be involved in. Look at the competitive postings, right? There's no points for originality in your job post. It's so if you've got people in your marketplace that are looking for similar types of employees, go look at those postings. If they're offering, something in their posting that they offer their employees seems like something of value that you could be offering, you might want to consider offering that. But there's probably lots of great stuff about working at your company that you just don't even think of because you've been in it for so long. And you'll read other people's postings and you'll be like, hey, that sounds great. And we offer that too. Why is that not in our job posting? So like, the ability to research your competitors, it's so great. They're all there. You can see all of their jobs. Go in and see what they're talking about and take the stuff that obviously you want to rewrite stuff. You don't want to just be copying, pasting people's job postings, but use them to get ideas, because sometimes sitting in front of the screen, it's not the best way to generate ideas when there's so many people out there already done some of the legwork for you. When you do a search for your company, the two of the first pages that are going to come up are the Glassdoor company page and the Indeed company page. So if I'm just a job seeker and I type your company name in, those things are going to be near the top of the list. And what's being said on there, like, you've got a great ability to influence that narrative. One, like, do you actually upload stuff to your company page? Like, I know a lot of companies in our industry do a lot of great work giving back to the community. Wouldn't it be great if anybody who's potentially interested in your company could see a video about an event that you did right there? Like the type of stuff that you can do to differentiate, where it's like, here's a bunch of people all wearing the same company t-shirt. They all look really happy. It's at this like fundraising event and we've raised this much money, even though we're not a huge company. These are the types of things that you can put on there that are going to attract people to what it is that you're doing and attract that like high quality candidate. When it comes to the reviews, like, it's like anything else, right? That you wanted an unbiased review platform. And what that means in part is like the company managing it, you kind of want them to stay out of it and leave it, like you think overall, like, sure, there'll be some false complaints or false narratives on there. But if it's a good company, the positive reviews will outweigh the negative, right? And going on there and responding when people write negative things, I think is the best thing to do. Look, not everyone's going to have a great experience working at your company, even if it is a great company. But the mere fact that you engage with people when they write negative things, and you do it in like, you keep a positive tone, you're professional about it, you're not trying to like throw this person under the bus, but you engage with them and you're thoughtful about it, and you're like, I'm sorry to hear that that was your impression of whatever this thing is. Like, that's something that we're going to look at. Like, just a company that takes the complaints of people who work there seriously, I think distinguish you from people who don't respond in any way. We do know that job seekers do look favorably on people or companies that respond to their negative reviews.
Like, we get a lot of no-shows, right, with our interview process. And so we started down this rabbit trail a little bit of, okay, I can either get mad about the no-shows, or I can text them or message them and say, oh no, we must have done something wrong. I'm just curious why you didn't show up for your interview. We were really excited to talk to you. And I'm shocked at how many people have gotten back to us and said, oh, we thought you were a scam. We thought companies like that didn't really care. We thought it was a robo response. What are your thoughts there to get more engagement in terms of interviews?
Yeah. So first off, I want to be very clear. Like, I'm not here representing Indeed. I'm not I'm not a spokesperson for the company. And like, anything I say is just like one guy's opinion who happens to work at Indeed. So I do get a decent amount of experience seeing these things, and like seeing which of your clients are successful, versus which of your clients are not as successful. So I think one thing is just to like recognize that it's not as hard to get an interview now, and anything that's easy come, easy go, right? So part of the thing is like, it makes it better for everyone, I think, if it's easier for people to apply, because it could be so hard. Like, people have a regular life going on, plus they're doing their full-time job. When is it that they're going to write a customized resume for every opportunity that they want, right? Mm-hmm. So the fact that it's really easy to apply, I think overall is a great thing for everybody. But it also means, like, I might apply to 10 jobs and you're one of the first to contact me and I'm interested, but then 3 other contact me that I'm more interested in. And so I just kind of ghost you because we don't really have a relationship, and it didn't really take me, I didn't invest a lot to get that interview. So I think some of the similar stuff applies. Like, I think that if you talk to Google, they probably have a lot fewer no-shows than you do or I do. Yeah. And part of that is because people are excited to work there. So I think you kind of hit the nail on the head that there are reasons that people are no-showing. Some of them have to do with your company and your brand positioning. And some of them just have to do with the fact that, like, as it becomes a little bit easier to do these things, that people are less invested in the process. Right. So I think the same stuff applies. Like, have a good company page, be on there telling your story. Like, you can use rich content like video and stuff like that. Same thing with Glassdoor. Like, build out on those sites. And I think most of us have somebody who's like social media or graphics, like somebody who does that type of work within our business. Once we get to a certain size, maybe it's a VA or whatever, but like investing some time on your company pages on those platforms to make sure that you're showing everyone the best that you have to offer. That's going to help you stack rank. When they've got 10 people they applied to, which 3 are they actually going to follow through on the interviews with? Probably the people who've shown the most value to them as an employer.
So you're saying then, let's say I have a position that requires a disc profile or something to that nature. It's better to save that until later, or put it in your job description now?
I would want to interview first, because one, like, a lot of people, they're not going to know necessarily what that is or where they score on that. And they might think, well, am I going to invest the time doing this thing for a company I don't really know yet? If I don't even know what this thing is. So I would say, like, you want to be able to have an opportunity to talk to them about your company, your story, and what they could accomplish with you prior to kind of putting stuff on them. There are tools and stuff. Like, Indeed does have some tools like assessments. I'm not sure what it's like, how much they're used. But there's some things you can do. But again, it comes down to, like, the more, if you ask them to do a bunch of stuff, you just kind of limit it to people who have the time to do that. And one of the groups of people that will have the time to do that are people who don't necessarily have jobs currently. And that's not always who you want to be recruiting from. Sometimes you want to be taking top talent from elsewhere.
Oh man, that's a gold bomb. I had been using that as a sorting tool that people that really want to work for us are going to go and complete this survey, right? That we want. Okay, so then let me kind of step back. As you know, wholesalers and house flippers, I mean, we're running with our hair on fire anyway, particularly those that have full-time jobs like you, right? So what are your thoughts on like group interviewing? Like, because we had 500 applicants for one position. And so I thought that the survey I needed to use to kind of filter them, it would filter them out into these different profiles, right? And then that profile, I would only interview the sales profiles, let's say. And that was a sorting mechanism for me. But now that I think about it, and the other angle is, well, you might have found a better candidate had you done an interview and then ask them, once that you kind of hook them on your company, then have them go and fill out these profiles. So my question to that is, we can do that in our company, but I'm thinking that we would have to do group interviews.
So I think like it's amazing that you're getting 500 applicants. So I would say like your strategy is really going to switch up depending on all of the particulars of your situation. There's not like a strategy on Indeed that it's like, this is how you should use Indeed. A lot of it comes down to like, if you're struggling to get candidates, anything that you do that lowers the number of candidates you get is probably not going to be a great strategy. But if you're like getting tons of traction, then absolutely I would take advantage of things like assessments up front where you can, because you're probably not even going to go through 500 resumes effectively. You know what I mean? So if you can say, even if 25% of those people are willing to fill out these assessments, like that's still over 100 applicants filling out assessments. There should still be some fantastic candidates in there. And you are right. The people who are more willing to put in that work, they are showing an additional level of commitment. There is that side to it too. So I'd say if you're struggling for candidates, I wouldn't do anything up front. But if you've got lots, absolutely put assessments in and things like that, so that, because it's a return on time, right? Like you don't have time to effectively screen 500 people probably as a small business.
Right.
So getting that number to a more manageable size, I think that's a fantastic idea. That's in your case, I wouldn't really change much about that.
But if you, like, going back to what you said earlier, if we're writing a really good hook at the beginning to talk about the benefits to them, and maybe we put in a little like to help out with no-shows, we had a little video created about what it's like to work here. And we had some old B-roll footage and stuff from other projects and things. So we had a videographer put that stuff together, and he did a Zoom interview with each of because we're work from home. So he did a Zoom interview with everybody. He's like, the audio quality is terrible. And I said, I don't care. It's about seeing them in their home environment. The audio doesn't have to be perfect, right? I want the person that wants the job to see them working in their bedroom or wherever it is. Yeah. And one thing, Waylon, because you talked about that, I'm always editing my job title. So for example, Indeed they have their kind of natural, you might want to name it this, you might want to name it that, these really cool algorithms that they analyze your stuff. And so I had an appointment setter position, and it was like appointment setter / sales. And I ran that for a couple of weeks, and we're in 3 markets. So we wanted to hire somebody in one of our 3 markets, appointment setter / sales. And I was like, okay, that seems to be the best one. If Indeed's telling me that's the best one, I'm going to go with it. And then I'm going to tweak after I see what happens for a week or so. Because I'm assuming they're investing millions in these algorithmic suggestions, right?
Yeah. So again, like this is just one guy who works at Indeed, and I'm not an engineer, but when it's making suggestions, my understanding is that it's based off of what are the most like when you type into Google, like, what is, it starts telling you what comes up next. My understanding is it says that, it suggests it because those are the things people are most commonly typing. So it's definitely a good way to understand like what's likely to get picked up by, or what's likely to pick up more job seeker queries. So I think like this brings me to a good point about people can get like really cute with their job titles, and it's not a good idea on a platform that is ultimately a search engine, right? So like people like, maybe they say something like, oh, we're looking for a digital marketing ninja. Yeah. okay, it tells me something about the company. That's cool. Like they've got like kind of a laid back, they're fun place. Unfortunately, like I'm probably not typing ninja into the search engine, which means that somebody who said just digital marketing specialist is more, that job's more likely to come up more quickly because it matches the natural search query more. So instead of like coming up with cute names or like being like, well, our job's not quite the same as what most people who have this job title have, so I'm going to come up with this separate new thing. It's like the problem is that's not what people are typing in. So if you want to get more visibility, being kind of generic in your names and keeping them like, so for appointment setter / sales, I might say like in tech sales, we have different titles: sales development rep, business development rep, market development reps at some companies that basically all refer to the same thing. And that is somebody whose job is to set appointments for someone else to come in and close. So I'm not saying that this will necessarily perform better, but if someone's looking for that type, they're like, oh, I want to get into sales. And I know that like sales development role is a pretty good one to get started with. I might just call them a sales development rep or something like that, because that's popular terminology. So just making sure you're using the language that other people are using, even if your job's not exactly the same, but it's very close to that, you're going to get more eyeballs on it. And the tighter your job description matches the job title, the more effective your spend is going to be, right? Because the way that cost per click platforms work, and there's some moving away, like there's some cost per applicant stuff now as well, but you want people not to be surprised when they click on the job, right? You want them to see exactly what they expected. So make sure that there's tight alignment and stay away from kind of creative titles, I would say. Putting that work from home, especially, that's a really common thing that people are looking for now. And again, it's like how you can't hit someone harder with the what's in it for the job seeker than putting it right in the title. Now there are restrictions on Indeed, and they want you to mostly keep your job titles to what the actual role itself is. Like get away. They don't want spammy titles on there, right? Like right. You might see on Craigslist because it just doesn't look very professional, and it's tougher. It's tougher to sort out the opportunities versus you don't want clickbait on your job seeking platform, right? Right. But I think work from home is something that I don't think there's an issue with. And I think it attracts, because the idea is like, does it provide value to the job seeker to know that it's a work from home position before I even have to click on it? That provides value to the job seeker, which means that's kind of the simple way to think about it. They want to do stuff in the interest of the job seeker. And if it helps them, then they're generally for it. And that certainly helps. And I'm not surprised it did a lot better. I definitely say for most of us, all these jobs are work from home. So really putting that in the title probably can increase your performance.
Yeah, it just felt like it was almost like a Google pay-per-click ad, right? If the keyword, if they're looking for work from home, I wanted people to understand that I wanted it to kind of self-filter again. If they want to go to an office, we're probably not for them. But if they want to work from home, then we are. So, okay, so you've dropped a lot of go bombs here, but going back to what you started from the beginning. So how do we get what we want? I think we spent a really good amount of time drilling down on that. Is there anything else that you want to talk to about how do we get the people we want, the attraction piece, or do you want to move on to how do we now hire the right people?
I'd say one more thing about that, which is like, don't be afraid to be actively sourcing a little bit. I know like in a small business, you don't have unlimited time, but Indeed's got a resume database. I'm sure like other platforms have their targeting tools. And like, you might think that I know this really tough sales job that if someone's really good at this, they'll be really good at wholesaling or lead intake. And go into the company. You can search and see people who have on their resume that they work for that company in a sales role. You can see if people have updated their resume recently, which means that they're probably looking, right? So like on other platforms, they generally don't have the same level of visibility, because when people are looking for a job, they're mostly looking on Indeed. And so to know that this person's out there applying for jobs that has this skill set you're looking for, it might not take you any more time than filtering through all the inbound resumes to actually just target 15 or 20 people who appear to have the skill sets and experience you're looking for, and reach out to them directly.
I think as entrepreneurs, we don't pay enough attention to the details and all the valuable tools that exist, right? We'll go and we'll pay for a piece of software or pay for a service, and we use it to 40%, 30% of its capacity. And that's what I love about, I mean, not to give props to Indeed because you work there, but we switched from another platform that pushes out to Indeed, by the way. over to Indeed because I found it so helpful to have everybody's there, you know.
Yeah.
It's like a house party and everybody's at the house party. So
Yeah, it's fantastic. Like the access, you get access to so many people. I think it's just like search engines tend to be like monopolistic because when you have a big audience, you also, your AI and everything is learning faster, right? So you get better at delivering people the content that they want. Yeah, I think it's made hiring so much easier overall. And like, I wish it was around when I got my first sales job, because like I said, I take a very rough 100% commission sales job. And I don't think any talented young person now like has the ability to get a job that at least has a base pay.